a little bit about your educational background and, work experience background and kind of what led you to decide, a PhD is the next step for me.
I schooled at FUTO, Federal University of Technology, Owerri. Finished 3 years ago. And yeah, I was lucky enough to finish as the best graduating student in my department, in my faculty, and I believe among the best in the school. Right from when I was in school, a lot of person, I had a lot of my friends like in upper levels like that graduated, and then next thing they were either doing a master's or a PhD there in Canada, UK, or the US. So I think it was just naturally like the next goal in mind. Like, okay, if you can get an advanced degree, then maybe you can get to play with the big boys or something like that. Better career opportunities, better growth. Even Nigeria, I've always seen like people that had advanced degrees, even like Okonjiwala and the likes, they also get the opportunities, international job opportunities and stuff like that, like appointment opportunities. So just like the next thing, like, okay, so go and pursue this, and when you are done with it, you have much more career opportunities ahead of you.
Awesome, yeah. Awesome. Oh my goodness. Congratulations on being the best graduating student in your department. That's amazing. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. I mean, I didn't do my university education in Nigeria, but my goodness, I know that it is tougher to achieve that kind of recognition in Nigeria compared to, let's say, the US. So congrats on that. Walk me through the decision to apply to study specifically in the US and how you went about that.
As much as I graduated and actually wanted to go to graduate school because I saw it as like, well, we're going to open the doors of opportunities. Well, I also think I also need to also add the second part, which was that like the unserious part. The serious part, which was that I've always admired like a lot. There's a part where you feel like, okay, you need to contribute to the world, and being someone that has always been academic inclined and stuff like that. So I also feel graduate school was going to give me the opportunity to maybe play around with one or two things and see what works and maybe contribute my bit. So, but that's on that side. Then your other question.
Tell me about the process of applying and why you chose the US. Let's hear it off.
Okay, so the IG reason that would be like, well, the US has a lot of opportunities and it just feels good being in the US. But the real reason is I shot a lot of shots. I applied for Chevening in the UK. I applied for Erasmus Mundus in Europe. I applied for MasterCard at McGill. And then I applied to some schools in the US. And Chevening didn't work out. One of the Erasmus Mundus programs I applied to, it worked out partially. Like I did not get the scholarship, but then the school gave me a partial scholarship. And the US, 2 schools I applied to in the US worked out for me. So
nice.
I'm in the US.
Nice. The application process for PhD, in computer engineering, which is dope, very dope. Give me a summary. What did that entail for the US? Okay,
so for the US, applying to the US, well, I think it was a generic set of applications, your statement of focus, 3 recommendation letters. I wrote a GRE and TOEFL. For the school I applied to and the year I applied, GRE was like compulsory. They had actually specified there, like if you go through some schools' websites, you see stuff like our admitted students typically get an average of so and so scores in GRE, that kind of thing. So it was necessary. And the school I applied to, which was Purdue, TOEFL is not compulsory, but to actually get a teaching assistantship, which is one source of funding, you must have written that TOEFL or IELTS and have gotten a particular score. Yeah, I think that was generally those were like the generic application materials. There weren't any new or special or unfamiliar material.
And when it comes to taking the GRE and the TOEFL, so you took the TOEFL, correct? Okay. How did you prepare and get a good score?
Okay. How did I prepare for the TOEFL? For the TOEFL or for the GRE?
You can start with anyone.
Okay. I'll start with GRE. I always like to start with GRE. Okay, so I would put it this way. I went to so before January 2020, I always had like a lot of GRE prep materials in my phone, which I always struggled to read. Like reading those GRE materials were always too much, and I never really got myself to understand them on my phone. Then January 2020, I went to the market and I bought a GRE prep book, and I think typically, and then I spent a lot of time preparing for the GRE. even though it wasn't like they were always the boss. So maybe for a particular month, I would spend a lot of effort, and after that month, for the next like 2 months, I wouldn't. Okay, sorry, I bought the book in January 2019, and I wrote my diary January 2020. So I actually had a span of 1 year to actually prepare, but it's not like I prepared for the entire 1 month. I always believe that examinations is not just about how intelligent you are. Every exam has its strategies, every exam has its strategies, and people that do well in exams are people that are able to understand the strategies and prepare in line with the strategies. If not, you'll be like, say Obi fail exam, no be say Obi no read, but waiting Obi reading no come out.
Yeah.
You'll be like that. You get. So one thing that helped me was trying to understand the GRE strategy. I think this applied to both GRE and TOEFL. So I know I went through a lot of YouTube videos just trying to understand like how is the GRE exam like. Then when I bought the GRE prep book, it helped me because the book spent a couple of chapters. Like half of the book was just focused on talking about each part of the exam, how the questions are structured. Like you'll be surprised to know that if you write the GRE exam 3 times without no additional preparation in between the 3 times, you'll get approximately the same score. So it's because if you fail a question in the GRE, 9% of the time is because you couldn't solve the question, not because you solved and solved wrongly. So the book actually took me through like each type of GRE question, how to actually approach the question, both in the verbal and the quantitative. And I think that helped me because I saw my scores, like I was taking regular practice tests, and I saw the score increasing, such that as at when I wrote the GRE, I was confident that I was going, unless my village people remembered me that morning, I was going to get a good score.
That's really good. And a question actually came in. For a lot of people, sharing their actual score is very personal, so this is up to you. But the question is, please, what was your GRE score?
Oh, I got a 325, a 167 in quantitative and 158 in verbal.
Like you're crazy smart.
No, it's not. Like I said, it's not about being smart.
What book did you use to prepare?
Okay, I specifically use Kaplan GRE. Kaplan GRE. But so it's okay. How do I put this? Kaplan was my main preparatory material for the GRE. But like for example, in the verbal, I noticed that one big issue I was having in the verbal was my knowledge of words. I'm not like the kind of person that come and shaking funny for you. Like, so I needed to actually get myself up in that regard. I had to get some applications like a Magoosh English vocabulary app to be practicing my English. I had to watch a lot of videos on just verbal, just to try to improve my verbal. AWA, the analytical writing section, like I had to look for additional resources to actually help me prepare for that section also. So yeah, I always believe when preparing for either GRE or TOEFL, having a way to gauge your progress is good. And that is one. So when you buy let me say the Kaplan GRE prep book, it also gives you access to an online platform where you could actually take online tests. And it tells you it does not just tell you your score in the test, it tells you what areas you did, like in quant, for example, it tells you what particular topics you did well and what particular topics you did not do well. So those kind of things, it helped me to identify, okay, in quantitative, I'm actually lacking in this particular topic, maybe in statistics or maybe in probabilities or combinatorial theorems and stuff like that. And then I would have to go and read up the topic or learn about them. And when I'm taking the next test, I'll see that, wow, I can now answer those questions in those topics. So I think that way of actually assessing myself while preparing actually also helped.
That's amazing. Well done. Congratulations. I still maintain that you're crazy smart because in addition to all the prep, you are pretty gifted in academics. And I think that's very clear too. So well done. Well done. All right. Now, Purdue, I don't know if people that are listening or watching know, is one of the top universities in the US. So it's not an easy place to get to. So if you could tell us some of the behind the scenes secrets, of how to break into the big players in the field. You know what I mean? So, what works for you, what worked for you, or what have you seen as somebody that is on the other side as some of the secrets for how to get into the big name schools?
To be honest, when I applied to Purdue University, I know I don't apply to schools like MIT or Stanford, though, but I applied to Purdue, and I was like, well, that was one of the applications where I had applied, and I was like, this is just, let me just apply. Like, I don't really have that much expectation. And I'd also applied to some not so big schools also, which I was like, okay, at least those schools, they should at least give me admission, even if Purdue does not give me, no problem. So, but I was lucky actually. And I think it's general that, okay, my getting into Purdue was because I reached out to a couple of professors in Purdue during the application period, and luckily, I always put luck because there are two things that would always work. Like, I know I work hard again, but sometimes I just like to accept that it's still luck that make my hard work hard for me. So luckily, one of the professors I reached out to responded back to me, and we had a very fruitful series of discussions, had a couple of interviews, and then so he's my advisor I'm currently working with today. Yeah, so I think that was what helped me get into Purdue. But then generally being on the other side and having seen a lot of other persons that have also, there are three things I typically advise people about. The first is, typically getting access to professors' help. Like, because if you apply to a department, for example, okay, let me see. In the email that Purdue sent, like Purdue ECE sent me, like my department sent me when they were like about 2,000 persons applied for a PhD position, and I was among the very few that was selected. Wow. That kind of thing. So when you apply to universities directly, you are competing in a very large pool. Your chances are, a lot of persons, their chances are still good because they have very good applications. But your chances get times 10 when you actually reach out to professors. Typically, when you reach out to a professor, you are just competing with other persons that are also reaching out to that particular professors. And if you get a professor, like, if you can just get a professor to accept you, which is difficult to do, a lot of them would not respond to your mail. But if you can get a professor that would respond to your mail and have an interview with you, and you can impress him during the interview, it's always just an automatic admission. You just get the admission because once a professor recommends a student for admission. So yeah, so I think I always encourage students that are applying to pay a lot of attention towards reaching out to professors. There are some disciplines such as I have friends in chemistry. In fact, I know a lot of chemistry departments that will tell you not to reach out to that you don't need to reach out to professors. And I have friends that got admitted to chemistry here in Purdue that not need to reach out to professors before getting in. So it's not like you must reach out to professors, but I'm just saying it's something that if you can do, it also helps a lot.
Wow. Yeah. That's a very, very important tip. And I like how you did the calculation between the chances when you apply to the general pool versus when you initiate with a professor on the back end. So let's take us deeper into the process of reaching out to a professor, right? So think about somebody that is a complete novice in this process. Do you just say, hello, Dr. XYZ, this is me, I want to be a student with you? Like, what were the actual things in that email that made it strategic for you? What did you include? Like, what do you think made it successful when you reached out to the professor?
I would answer the question in two parts. The first part is knowing which professor to look out, trying to know which professors you want to reach out to, and then secondly, reaching out to them in particular. In terms of knowing which professors to reach out to, okay, so when I was applying, I typically would go to, a friend of mine talks about a school called Georgia Tech or Georgia Institute of Technology, and next I go and I Google Georgia Institute of Technology, ECE, or Computer Science Department. And then I go to their department page, and then I'll see there's really a page that would either show the list of faculty members, that is professors in the department, or that would I'll go to their research, like where they'll list their different research areas. And then I'll look for the research area I'm interested in, typically computer engineering or something close to that. And I'll look through the professors in that research area. And I'll start Googling each professor one by one, like trying to know which one has similar interest with my interest. That's actually it's actually a very, very tedious process, and it takes a lot of time to even see professors that you are interested in, or especially as a novice, you don't even know much about the research, what research entails. So a lot of things you'll see on their websites may actually be strange, but that was the process I went through. An alternative process actually is, this is a little bit much more technical. It's a little bit more technical, but so these professors publish papers in conferences. For example, in my field, software engineering, there are some top conferences, international. These conferences are usually hosted by some organizations. You could go to one of the conference websites, see the papers that were published in a particular year. Sometimes these papers are arranged according to fields, and it just literally tells you the professors that are working in that space. So if, for example, I'm interested in computer engineering, maybe a particular subset of computer engineering, let me say security, I could go to a software engineering conference like ICSE, you know what it means, and then I look for the papers that are in the security section, and I'll see all the professors, like, because anybody that submitted a paper there is actually in computer security or in software security. So I think it's a much more direct way of just knowing, and you can now maybe filter. You see their schools, you look for, oh, okay, you are interested in this school also, and so I think it's much more direct because you save a lot. If you go through the university website, the department's website, for example, my school has like 100, my department has like 100 plus faculty members. Maybe at the end of the day, you may go through like the websites of 20 of them, and you may not even see any of them that interest you. But on the other hand, if you focus like through like conferences, or must not be conference website, it can be maybe your field has like a professional organization, and there's a way to actually get a list of people in that organization and the kind of work that they do. Some that can actually classify, like in computer science, there is a website called CS Rankings that someone that is interested in computer science fields can go there. If he's interested in, let's say, AI, for example, you can go there and select AI, and you'll see for each school, you'll see the professors that work on AI in each school. It just gives you a much more direct way of looking for these professors. So that is one way of finding professors in a field. Then in terms of reaching out to them, I'll say two things. The first is, some of these professors on their website, they have like directions. Okay, if you are a prospective student and you want to reach out to me, follow these steps. I would suggest that anybody that wants to reach out to professors should go through the professor's website and ensure that, for example, the professor I reached out to, on his website, he has something like that, and it is funny enough to put somewhere it was a very long page of how your email should be. Like, he was as in-depth as telling you, when you are sending an email to me, include this thing, like it's some certain things, include your CGPA, include this, include that, you get it. And then at the bottom it was like, also find a way and include somewhere in your email some random phrase, like he put some random phrase, you get. And he was like, if you don't include that phrase, he wouldn't see your email. So he had like a filter set up that once you include that phrase in your email, either in the title or in the body, it filters that email into So I think if you want to reach out to a professor, go through his website and see if he has any direction for prospective students. Some will tell you your email must have a specific heading or must contain a specific phrase in the title, and so that's on that. Then in terms of the body of the email, honestly, there's no single rule that works. If you go online, you'll see a lot of email samples. I would always tell people, go online. You'll see, even on Twitter, I see a lot of people that share email samples of. For me, I would suggest, like, if you can at least understand one of these professors, like the line of work that this professor does, then you can reach out to the email. Like through email, hi Professor XYZ, Paschal Amusuo, prospective 2022 applicant at Purdue University. I went through some of your work, so I went through one particular work. Maybe I went through your work on edgewise processing, and I love how you just put a very brief summary of what he did there and why you think it's important. For someone that doesn't have any idea of it, so it may be difficult even understanding the work that the professor did. So I'm trying to encourage my friends that if you know you are interested in applying for graduate school in September, like later this year, this is the time that you actually start to try to understand some of these professors' works. You have like 6 months before then to try to understand what certain professors work on or what certain fields are about. So that when you are sending an email, you're not just sending it from a novice point of view. You are saying it like, I saw your work on this, where you actually did this and you did that. And I liked it because just take something on his, like in his introduction, the professor would have stated why that work is relevant. Just take it. I hope my professors won't hear this word. Just take it out, put it in the email for him. Like, you get, but then it means like, oh, that you're able to recognize the value of the work. And then you are like, and that represents the kind of work I would want to do during my master's or during my PhD. I want to inquire if you are currently looking out for new students, and if you are, I'll be interested in having further discussions with you. I think the most important part of some people may tell you that you may want to go deeper to market yourself through the email. But me, I would always suggest keeping the email as short as possible and including your CV and your statement of purpose. And if he's interested in if your email is sufficient enough to capture his interest, yeah, maybe you can include one line why you think you like, maybe just a line why you think that you would be of value to him. But your mail should just be as short as possible. And he can always go to your CV and read more about you. I think that's it. I've talked a lot. Yes.
I was going to say you provided a lot of valuable information. So no, it wasn't just talking a lot. It was very valuable information. And thank you for shining the light in some of the uniqueness or some of the unique aspects of this process. My specialty is nursing, and I know that, you know, the process that you described does not necessarily, I mean, it could work anywhere, but in some disciplines, like, you don't have to sell yourself that hard because the competition is not that steep. Versus some other places where the competition is very steep, and so the way you sell yourself and the way you send those cold emails, you really have to put a lot of thought into it. So,
like I said, nothing, like, there is no. The other admission I got at Iowa State University, even the professors I reached out to, they didn't respond to me. A professor on his own reached out to me. He was going through pool of applications, and he came across my application, and my interest aligned with what he's currently working on. I should go through his website, and if his website captures my interest, I should get back to him. I don't even need to reach out to him first. He reached out to me, and it's not because I'm special or because my application was. I've had this same thing happen to at least 2 of my friends, and they got admissions through the professors reaching out to them, like, on their own. So see, the thing is, as you are looking for professors are also looking for students. That's the funny part of it all. There's no single thing that I have a friend that has applied to schools, and without reaching out to any professors, is getting admissions from the schools he's applying to. Do what you want, do what you think would work for you, like, and pray to God that it will, pray to whoever you pray to that it works for you.
Good advice. Now, that leads me to my next question, which is, to an extent, there has to be a way that you prepare your application. Like, using Iowa State University now as the specific case, like, you can't prepare anyhow application and have professor reach out to you, right? So give us some tidbits or secrets about putting together a strong application.
I think the strongest parts of your applications are your statement of purpose, your recommendation letters, maybe your transcripts, maybe your GRE score, your IA or your TOEFL score. But I think typically the first thing that a professor looks at when he's looking at it is your statement of purpose. And statement of purpose is not what you write in November because you want to apply to a school whose deadline is is December 1st. And then you send it to people to review for you. You send it to someone. A school's deadline is on Sunday. You send someone on Friday your statement of purpose and tell them that you should please review it before Sunday so that you can apply to the school. Honestly, if it's me, I'll send it back to you and tell you, wow, nice this thing, but I don't have time at the moment to review it. It's a lie. I'll not tell you that. I may send you back to you and tell you it's okay, go and apply. You're not serious. But I think strong applications are like you. Okay, it's like it's some people, like, I try to tell I have friends in maybe people that just graduate, and I'm like, hey, shoot applications to schools, even if you don't have everything, even if you've not written GRE or you've not written TOEFL, that's, let me say, for example, you are in final year now, you just graduated, you're doing NYSC or something like that. You can shoot applications this year, even though you won't get an admission, but you learn a lot from the process of actually, you'd make mistakes that you would correct the following year. I try to tell people, like, that your statement of purpose, it should be something that you start preparing long enough. At least if you can start now, if this February, you know that by September later this year you don't want to apply to school, start now to know how to write statement of purpose. What should it contain? How should you capture your interest in it? I think that's the very first thing. The others, what they call it again, on letters of recommendation. I know that's always very tricky because not everybody will have the opportunity to get their past professors write letters of recommendations for them. There are some suggestions I give out there. The first is, okay, so I tell people that if you know you want to apply to 4 schools, for example, you don't, maybe when you want to apply, when you're applying to the first school, you call a professor to submit for that school. And then when you want to apply to the second school, you call the same professor. Like at some point, he may not necessarily give the same attention for each application. And some people apply to more than 5 schools. So what I advise is identify the professors you want to write letters of recommendation for you. At least try to keep in touch with them even before asking them. Like these are long term. Till now, I still try to call or say hi to 1 or 2 of my lecturers from FUTO just to still listen. But then when you need them to write letters of recommendations for you, try to itemize the schools you're applying to. If it's 6 schools or 7 schools, and then you tell them that, hi, Professor this, that I'm interested in applying for graduate school this year, and I'm looking at these schools. I will be needing letters of recommendation for each of them as I apply. It gives them so they are not expectant that, okay, they're expecting to write 6 letters of recommendations for you. They wouldn't get bored whenever they see the school sending them the mail to. They wouldn't get bored because they're already expecting it. It's better than always calling them every weekend that you need a new letter of recommendation. You get? So that's one. The second thing is, well, for me, I had the luxury of having multiple professors that I could reach out to write letters of recommendations for me. So I was able to have like 6 different professors, and then I could, for a particular application, I could pick 3, and another application I could trying to distribute it. Okay, so I had the professors that I had at least 1 or 2 that wrote for almost all the application, but I tried to still distribute it so that I wouldn't just put all the whole weight on 1 or 2 persons and they would and bore them out. So if you also have that luxury of multiple professors, it's good. A third is I worked before graduate school, and I was able to get the CEO of one of the companies I worked with. I was able to get the CEO to write a letter of recommendation for me. So I think it's so. And okay, there was why I looked at letters of recommendation. I was like, I got this suggestion somewhere, I can't remember where. So, but it was more like, you have 3 letters of recommendation. If the 3 letters are all saying the same thing about you, it doesn't really, it supports that single thing about you, but it doesn't really give flesh again outside that. So it's more like having different professors. Like one of my recommenders, like a professor, like his letter was more focused on how academic brilliant I was and how I was able to tackle difficult problems and stuff like that. A second one it still talked about my academics, but then it went into deeper detail. It was talking about my leadership abilities, because I had worked with that particular person in a leadership position. I was a class representative of my class, so he went into details to talk about my leadership ability. And then I got the CEO of the company I worked with to talk about, he still highlighted my leadership ability, but then talked about how both hardworking and how problem-oriented or solution-oriented I was, and how I was able to do magic for them in the company and stuff like that. I don't know if all of them were true, but it's more like different letters providing different aspects that try to build up for most graduate school applicants, or most professors are looking for students with the ability to do research. And Nigerians or Africans, we are at a disadvantage because many of us do not really have that opportunity to do research. So they now need to assess us from, okay, you've not done research before, can you do research? So typically, having professors talk about parts of it that could actually show how, like the same characteristics as someone that can do research helps. And I'll tell you one thing also, like if it's possible, if you can send a draft to a professor, like some schools may say this is not, some schools may explicitly tell you that this is not allowed. But if a school does not explicitly say that, getting a professor like, okay, let me send you a draft, then you can edit and submit. Because that way you can actually talk, like, because if not, like if you leave some professors to write, you leave a professor, you don't know what he's going to write for you. Like he could just write one line of, oh, Pascal is a good boy, I taught him one course like that, thank you very much, please grant him admission, as if they are sharing up a song here. So sometimes if you can be involved in the writing, also write and give them, let them let them edit, let them change, add and remove whatever they want to. It's not like you are writing and submitting on your behalf. You are just giving them a draft. They can add new things, they can remove things, they can remove what they don't agree with, but they have somewhere to start from. It also saves them a lot of time.
I also agree. I am an advocate for giving professors a draft. I say that all the time. Like I'm an advocate of that. Let them be the one to say no, they don't want it. But if you offer it will make life so easy for you. But oh my goodness, Pascal, you're dropping so much nuggets today. Thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna go into the meat of the conversation today, right? And so, like, coming.
Oh, what have we been missing? The pepper soup.
we've been drinking the water. Because again, when it comes to studying abroad, money is a huge part of it. And I think from the title of our talk today, like it already alludes to the fact that you do have a graduate assistantship. So let's talk more about how you got that. My first question, was that guaranteed with your position or with your admission, or did you have to negotiate that separately?
So my admission came with 2 years graduate teaching assistantship offer. Renewable. As usual, it would always be like renewable if you maintain good academic standing and stuff. So my first semester, I studied as a graduate teaching assistant, and I don't need to do anything extra for it. It came with the admission. But then along the line, the professor I worked with that semester offered me a research assistantship this semester, so that I could focus more on the work I was doing rather than spending 20 hours of my life every week marking students' results. So there's really so if you reach out to a professor before applying, then if the professor has money, then he can offer you a research assistantship. But if you reach out to the school directly, like you apply directly to the school, then you'd probably get either a fellowship or a teaching assistantship from the school. So it just differs. Some schools give especially some of the top schools give funding to all the admitted students. Some schools wouldn't, especially for PhD. For PhD, they wouldn't admit you unless they have money to fund you. Some other schools don't really give, like some other schools would want, like your first year, you probably, like not everybody may get funding for their first year, and but then once you start your first year, if it's a PhD, there's a high probability of getting funding from your second year. For masters, it's a little bit more selective. Not everybody gets funded during a master's degree.
That's true. And so for your funding package, that is 2 years and renewable, did you have to negotiate the specifics of the amount, or you just took what they gave you?
I just took what they gave me. I hadn't heard of someone negotiating the specifics. I think that may work. It's probably going to work, but I don't know. I was more happy that I got that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Now, when somebody is applying to study in the US, for example, what are some things they can do that would help them not just get admission, but also get the money? What do you think worked for you?
I think it depends on the department, but for computer science related fields, computer science, computer engineering, electrical engineering, and most engineering fields actually, most of my friends that got admitted to engineering got in because they had a professor like accept them during the application process. So I think for engineering is very important. For some fields like the basic sciences, biology and chemistry, I've learned that you don't need to reach out to professors. Your application is assessed on its merits. So if your admission is through a professor, then the professor is most likely going to give you what they call it again, a research assistantship, or help you get a teaching assistantship or a fellowship. So I don't think there's any particular thing. It's now different if for example you get admission from a school without funding, there are ways to actually look for funding from that school. For example, I know a friend that so there are all these for example, like I know in Purdue, for example, I saw a maths department asking for teaching assistants for the fourth semester. So a department like maths, like typically their graduate students are not enough because they teach maths to the entire university. So they need a lot of teaching assistants. So in that kind of scenario, you can get admission in mechanical engineering and go and apply for a teaching assistantship. So in this case now, you are the one that is making the application. It's not your department that is offering it. You can go and apply for a teaching assistantship in another department. So I have a friend that also in Purdue there is also a program called I forgot the name of the program, but it's not really affiliated to his department. It's not affiliated to the faculty, like the engineering office, something like that. And then he had to apply there for a teaching assistantship, and then he got it. And then that is so. If you get admission without funding, you need to, most times from outside the school, you may not necessarily know some of these opportunities. But if you can get in touch with someone that is a student, like almost every day I get emails. I don't keep track of the emails I get from different units in Purdue, and some of them would always be about opportunities. A professor looking for a research assistant, a unit looking for a teaching assistant, someone looking for resident assistant. There's always opportunities coming up. So if you get admission without funding, it's good to try to link up with someone in the school so that if such an opportunity comes out, the person can also tell, okay, try and apply to this, try and apply to that, try and apply to this. Maybe you'll be lucky you get one of them accept you.
That's a very, very good suggestion.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very good. Okay, thank you for sharing that. My next question. You talked about those interviews and meetings you had with the professor before you applied. Now, was this before you submitted the online application or while your application was being reviewed? When did you have these meetings and interactions with the professor?
My first email to him was before I submitted the application. But when he responded, his first response to me was that I should submit my application first. Then I submitted it. So that happened in December. Then sometime in mid-January, he sent me another email that he had gone through my application and if I'm still interested in discussing further. So it was actually during when my application was being reviewed that I had the series of calls with him.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question after that. Tell us about preparing for that interview. And so you have this professor's attention, right? And now you get to have FaceTime with them. How did you prepare?
Yeah, it's usually very, very for this particular professor, it was easier with him because he gave me like set of questions like what would be discussing about. But they were all the same generic things. So the first thing is typically is that they would want to know your interest. They would want you to talk about your interest and why you got interested in that area. They would want to know amongst their research works, their research project, which of them caught your interest. Like they're trying to know if your interest actually aligns with what they've been doing. They would want to typically know like maybe tell me about in mine we talked extensively about my final year projects. Like he tried to ask me a lot of in-depth information. Okay, why did you choose to use this device? Why did you make some certain decisions I made in that process? I think it's probably to actually know if I had a very good understanding of what I did there, or if maybe someone just did a project for me and I was talking about it. Yeah, so most of this format you can see when you Google, you see a lot of, they're all the same things what professors are. You see a lot of questions that professors can ask you. But at least these were what mine bordered on. Then about preparing for the interview. I think there are two things I'll say. The first is the basic preparation I would encourage anyone to do is to learn about the professor. Learn about his work. At least try to know one of his work that you can talk about, that you can engage him in a discussion with. Try to identify 2 or 3 questions from that work. And I'll still tell you, it's very easy to get questions as a novice. Towards the ending of his work, I don't know if it is general for every field or just my field, but towards the end of the work, there's always the discussion section and the discussion limitations, future work, like where they discuss their limitations, their future work, the implications of their work for the industry and stuff like that. So when you go through that section, you would see even them asking questions and stuff. You see so a typical research paper is in 2 parts. There's the technical part, which is very difficult to understand because there's a lot of technicalities there. But then when you go to the ending part, the discussion session is it's so broken down because they are trying to communicate why that work is relevant to the industry. What should change? Why should people take them seriously? Yeah, so if you read that, it's only just like 3 or 4 paragraphs. If you read it, you'll be able to come up with at least 1 or 2 questions that you can ask him about how his work you get. So for me, it's typically pick one of a professor's work, maybe a paper, or some may have 3 papers on the same work. Try to understand what they did. You don't need to read the entire paper to understand what they did. Reading only the introduction should give you a broad idea of what they did. Try to understand the implications of what they did by going through the discussion section, which is at the ending. Come up with 1 or 2 questions, and then you'll be in a better position to discuss well with him during the call. Every other thing you would probably ask you are things you already know. The call I had with the Iowa State professor, he asked me some basics of some background work of like the field about computer systems. But those are things that I already know. It's not what I'll tell you to go and start reading book about throughout your undergraduate you get. So
wow, nice. Awesome. All right. So you got this admission, you got the funding, and now you need to go to the embassy and go through this process. And I think that the US visa is arguably one of the scariest visa processes because the denial rate is a lot higher, I think, compared to other countries. Tell us about...
I would also say it's one of the most straightforward processes.
It also is one of the most straightforward processes. Like, it's interesting how with other countries, at least in my experience...
With Canada, you would submit your application in Canada and go and pray for months before Canada wakes up one morning and say, hey, come, we have accepted your visa. I have a friend that said 4 months just waiting to hear from the Canadian embassy.
I know someone that waited 6. So it's insane. But yes, you're right. It's also one of the most straightforward processes, but that no hits you very quickly. So first of all, I think let me ask this question first. At the end of your application process, you already told us that you applied to multiple countries, multiple schools. Was the US the only option you had at the end, or did you have another country too where you had funding and admission?
So I think after I got US, I stopped pursuing some other applications. Like I know I was applying to a Carnegie Mellon University campus at Rwanda. Despite it being in Africa, Carnegie Mellon is the best computer science school in the world. And I was applying to some Erasmus Mundus programs. And so immediately I got the US. Even when those other schools were asking me for additional materials and stuff, I was no longer interested in following those processes. So
wow, your faith was really up there.
So I just focused on.
I said your faith was really up there that this thing was going to go.
See, the application process can be mentally draining. Honestly, the earlier someone gets done with it, like I just need to be like. So, and I already had 2 US admission. If you know about most European schools or UK schools or UK scholarships, so their decisions come around April, May, June. But US gives you decision January, February. So I was already like, I don't really want to continue with the whole mental stress of pursuing those ones.
That makes sense. That does make sense. All right. So you have all this, you're getting ready to go to the embassy, or you have gone to the embassy, because I think a lot of the pre-preparation for the US interview is very vague. You're filling out this online application and explaining, but there's a debate about what they read and whether they read it or not before you show up there. We don't know the answer. We're assuming they read it, but we don't know. And so tell us about your experience at the embassy, or let me rephrase that. How did you prepare for your US visa interview?
So for my US visa interview, I think the major preparations I did were in two phases. The first was going online to look for people's experiences, just to read random stories about people's experiences, and you'll see a lot of such information online. I know a friend also sent me like a compilation of visa interview transcripts, just so that I will be able to know what kind of questions that they asked and how people answer those questions. Then I had a friend that helped schedule me with did a mock interview for me, and like asked me like more like a mock interview. I'm part of a group, the First Class Leaders Forum. Some of you may have heard of it, but it's unfortunately is exclusively for only people that finished with first class from African universities. So, but they provide a lot of support during application process. So they organize these mock interviews, and I think it was really helpful because the person that I did mine with, like, tried also made some corrections and yeah, stuff like that. I when I saw the value of the mock interviews was during my interview, like, so you're in the line and the line was very, very long. A lot of persons were, that was like during application, during like admission season. And you are there and you are listening to someone undergoing an interview and you are listening to how the person answering some questions. And you yourself, in your own mind, you are like, from where I will deny this person visa. This person don't know it's like this person does not know what she's even saying or what he's even saying. You get that kind of it just shows that yeah, there was no preparation on like the person. So typically I think knowing what kind of questions that are typically being asked, knowing how you can, even if possible, preparing some answers to those questions beforehand helps you. But then I don't think that's the only thing that helps you. But yeah, it helps a lot. Typically, the US visa, they try to know three things. They make the decision based on three things. The first is, do you have a worthy cause to be in the United States, which the fact you have an admission is a worthy cause. The second is, are you able to fund your being in the United States? This is a part where a lot of persons have problem with. Because if you have a fully funded admission, it's always easier. I've not seen someone with a fully funded admission that was denied visa. I'm yet to see. A lot of persons that get denied visas either are trying to fund themselves or have partial funding. And the embassy is checking if you actually have, do you have this? If you say that you have an uncle that is going to fund you, well, they are trying to assess, is your ties to this uncle tight? Does he have his own families? Is there any reason why this your uncle will not fund you tomorrow? So it's very important. And then the third part is they also want to know whether when you are done, would you come back to Nigeria? That is the part where everybody lies. So, but it's not like we lied. It's not like I know the future, but I know that everybody does not really say the truth there. So, but yeah, they want to know these three things, and they ask questions that are all bothered around trying to know these three things. And if you know this and you're able to prepare responses around them, yeah, then you pray that whichever, like whoever you worship, God, whoever it is, would help you also, because I think to an extent there's a level of randomness in it. I have a friend that was denied visa 2 times, and on his third trial, the interview officer apologized on behalf of our fellow colleagues. Like, I don't know why they would have denied you this past 2 times, but I'm really sorry.
You cannot make this up.
No. He's in the US now. He's in the US. He has a very bumpy ride, but he's in the US now. So
you cannot make this up. I also got my first visa on the 3rd time. So, like, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I was a child at that time, and I'm so grateful that I had my dad hold my hand through the process. But I know that when you are an adult and you are navigating this by yourself, the blow hits different. It hits very different.
Like, I was totally surprised with my friend, because if it's me, honestly, after the first time, even before I would even apply a second time, but let me assume I even apply a second time. After a second time, I wouldn't have them. I would just move on with my life. I move over things so quick. Like, I just move on with my life. So, but the interesting part is that the three visa interviews were all within a space of 5 months, not 6, 5. So he would get denied within a week or 2. He would reapply again.
Wow.
Wait for dates. You would finally get a date. Within the 9, he reapply again. Like,
I also know somebody that got it on the 5th time. Some of us just have longer patience in this life.
So despite how much you prepare, like, there's also that bit of randomness.
Let's end with one question. Well, one serious question, then I'll ask you some fun questions. Since you've been here and, you're right now in Purdue University in the PhD program, congratulations. How has it been so far?
The truth or the ideas. Because the idea is like it's been going so great. It's been fun, like being in the US and snapping all these pictures of, like, I was early this the snow is still falling, safe, and then looking out from a window and seeing the snowfall and everywhere is white. It gives you that feeling that you are good, like things are going fine. So, and yeah, the education system it's just beautiful. You get to learn in a class that makes sense. I know how we learned in my Nigerian school. You get so during the Christmas, I flew to just go and see a friend. And when I calculate how much I spent, I'll be like, the Nigerian will be like, oh, this money for Islam do better. Like you start using how people are suffering, and you are like, and you are here just flying to go and see a friend, and it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's been good. Life has tried. That's the ideal answer.
What has been the pain points? What are the difficult?
Okay. Now the real answer. Well, I was talking with a friend. Just this past week, and he was asking, and we were talking. I was like, oh my, that if they told me that this is how this thing is going to be, and for just there, actually I did for Nigeria. They do my job. Now me talks I work on US course. So it's not like it's a pain point, but if you need something big, you need to put in a lot of effort. And graduate school in the US, especially a PhD in the US, it's extremely demanding. My supervisor sent me a couple of days ago like an email that contains some expectations like, okay, this should be our target for the end of this semester. This is what we should work towards. And I itemized it into different sections, and after reading the expectations, I still laughed. So last semester I was taking a course, and there's this point where this is where your Nigerian school stops. And when you come to US to do a master's or PhD, this is where they are starting from. How you get from here to here is your business. I'll go to a class. By the end of the class, the only thing I can remember that the man said in the class was probably the topic, and he drew one diagram I don't understand in the class. Like, I was taking 2 classes last semester, and I was super lost in the 2 classes for more than half of the semester. Like, I would spend a lot of my time like reading. Interestingly, I made A's in the 2 courses, so like I'm happy that my efforts paid out at the end.
You know, remember that thing I said?
No, it's not about being smart. It's about I put in a lot of the work. I put in a lot of the work, and that's one thing that I always want people to know. When it's easy to be in the Nigeria and see a lot of friends from some say FUTO na jungle. It's easy to be in Nigeria and see people in the US, and you want to also go to the US. But I think it's also good that you are mentally prepared that what you are going to face in the US, you're going to face the biggest stress that you have never experienced in your life before. I don't know how fast that can be, but no matter that you went to FUTO and thought that FUTO was stressful because you walk under sun from Seat Complex to Diamond Bank, and you think that FUTO is stressful because you probably stand up in your class and stuff. Don't worry, you'll be in the US, they'll give you AC, you'll be in class, you'll sit down very well in class, so you come and understand now. You think it's only sit that will make you understand, sit and AC. So, but yeah, I think it's good that people actually understand that it's mentally demanding. It's easy to get a PhD, a funded PhD in the US, but if academics is not your thing, if you are the kind of person that you get bored out with trading or in being inconsistently pursuing something, just better find a different career, because you need to put in a lot of effort to actually scale through the process. So, but I think generally it's been fine. At least I'm still surviving, and I still have the time to laugh with you on an IG live call. Maybe by next year, I don't know if
I am sure you do great. I'm sure you do great. Wow. Thank you so much, Paschal. It has been amazing speaking with you. So let's do some fun questions. Sharing your journey and your experiences, and wow, I know you're going to do amazing. Like, we are just going to watch and wait for you to just explode in the US. Like, I cannot wait for what your future holds. Thank you so much.
And what you're doing here with this Winnie Student World, I think it's great. I'd love to know, like, I'd love to participate in future version, but I really enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, I think the questions were thought provoking, and they're all encompassing. I think it covered every aspect of the process.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're doing well.
Thank you. And special thanks to the team behind the scene. I know the person who spoke to you a lot is Stephanie. And you know, Stephanie is my girl, and you know, a lot of people actually work behind the scenes, and I couldn't do this without them. But thank you so much for your compliment, and we are going to take you up on that offer. So when you see an email from us, please respond. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.